What's up, guys? Welcome to Code Medic. My name is Ro, and do consider hitting the subscribe button if you haven't already, to be part of my channel. And today we're going to be learning about the JavaScript Map Object. This is one of the most important things, one of the essentials you need in order to be really good at JavaScript. And so, without any further ado, let's jump right into it. So I'm going to open up the file explorer just to find a suitable place to start a project. I'm going to go for my drive D over here. Then I'm going to right click this and open it in terminal. There we go. So in here I'm using git bash, by the way. So I'm going to type in make dir. Then you give the name of your folder. In my case, I'll say map_object. Hit enter, and that time is confirmed. So type in ls to confirm. There it is. Then we now need to open this. cd into the project like that. Then to open it in VS Code, you need to type in code dot like that, code period. So it opens up. There we go. Very basic. So here we have our project. Let me just zoom in so everyone can see. So create a file called app.js like that. Then I'm going to confirm that it works. So I'm going to log who's the map. Then I'm going to say I'm the map. Yeah, those who watched Dora the Explorer when they are kids can relate to this. Yeah. Then I'm going to open up terminal by running Ctrl tilde. Then I'm going to use node to run this. So type in node.app.js. So there we have it. It means we can now run our project using node in our terminal. Now just clear everything. Now I need to clear something up. JavaScript arrays have the map method I'm going to show you. So a simple array like 1 to up to 6. So this map has takes a callback having the value, the index, and then array itself. So I'm going to take in the value, then multiply each value by 2. So this returns a new array which I'm going to store in a variable called r, like that. Now let's run this and see. Just log it. Now let's run it. So there we have it. Now let's talk about the actual map object. We start by initializing it by saying const user and saying new map. So there are many ways of initializing this. When you have it will tell you. You can have it as an iterable, passing an interval having key and values, like that, having key and the value. Or you can pass in entries that also has a key and a value. So for this case, we're going to pass in entries. Okay, so this is how you pass in entries. Put in square brackets, then you put in another square brackets, then the first value is going to be the key. So I'm going to say name, then I'm going to give an example like Ruel. Then afterwards you should put a comma at the end like that. Then pass in another entry like for example, this is age. Say you can pass in a number like 18. Then you can add something else like say then obviously male. Now let's print this. Just going to say log user. So here we have it. We have the map object. it is a little bit different from the normal object. Here the key is separated from the value using an arrow like that. So we have age, then we have gender like that. Now to get the value of an item from the map, you just use the get method. So I'm going to write get, then you pass in the key of the value you want to get. For example, I'm going to pass in name. Then let's log this. This should return royal like that. Age, it also works. It should return 18. I can also return gender. You see, it works. Returns male. To add values to your map object, we use the set method. So I'm going to say set. Now this takes in two arguments. The first argument is going to be the key. So I'm going to pass in, email. Then the next argument is going to be the value. For example, roll@gmail.com. Now let's get this and see whether it works. So say email, then log it and see. Yeah. So there we have it, roll@gmail.com. Now I'm going to try to add, a little bit more, just for practice sake. So I'm going to say user.set. Then I'm going to say course, for example, medicine. Now let's log it and see the course. Yeah, we have it, medicine. Now I'm just going to add a comment over here so that you know what you're doing. Just, adding values to the map object. Now you might be wondering, what happens if you try to get the value of an item that is not in the map? For example, address. Let's see what it returns. Undefined. Yeah. So when you try to get a value of an item that is not in the map object, it returns undefined. Now, what if you try to set, two items with the same key? For example, I'm going to duplicate this course, then just give it a different value, like say computer science. And now we're going to try to get this. So I'm going to say dot get the same key course. Let's see what it returns. Yeah, it returns computer science. Let's try age and see. Now age is set to 20. Now this means that the last item that we set overrides the first one, because map object will not allow two items to have the same key. Oh, and by the way, the key is not necessarily always a string. You can pass in a key as even a number, for example 404, and just say key as number, as giving it as its value. So let's try. Now getting it, you have to pass in the key again, like 404, and see, it works. Key as a number. Let's try other data types as the key. Now next I'm going to say so just duplicate this and say boolean, like true, and see if it works. There, it works. Now even more interesting, a map object allows objects itself to be as your keys. So here I'm going to pass in an object like name, then I'm going to say address, then of course we pass in our value. I'm just going to put in a random address over here. Now let's try to get it and see. So I'm going to pass in the exact object and look what happens. It returns undefined, because that's not how you get it when you use an object as a key. Now this is how you do it. You store the object inside a variable Like for example, I'm going to name mine object, then copy and paste it over there. Then you set it over here as the key. Then you pass in object. Now let's try it again and see. There it works. Now it even gets more interesting. The set object, let's try to have it and see. And see the set object returns the map itself. It returns the map itself. You see that? Now this means that we can chain this set methods. So I'm going to comment that out and use this syntax to set or rather to add values to our map. So I'm going just to copy the same thing. So email, pass in my email. Now afterwards, I just need to pass in .set to add another value. So I'm going to add course and say medicine as the value. And then do the same for the rest. Like that. See, it's a cleaner syntax. Now if you try to log the same map and see what it returns, there we have it. It's still intact with the same items we have, the name, all of it is still in there, so it works. So we can chain the set method. Yeah, what a nice thing to know. Now, how do we get to know whether an item exists within the map object? For this, we use the has method. The has method returns a boolean, true or false. So it takes in a single argument, which is the key, for example, name. So we have name and it returns true. What if we pass in, a key of an item that does not exist, like hobby? See what it returns. Returns false. Now let's learn how to iterate over a map object. To do this, the map object provides us with the very key methods that are instrumental to achieving this. The first one is keys method. Now the keys method returns an iterable of the keys within our map. So there we have it. All the keys are given over there. The other one is the values method that returns an iterable of values within our map object. There we have it. Well, the third and the last one is the entries method. Now this is unique because it returns the key and the value, of within our map object, like name, role, age, like that. Now to use them, we use the for of loop. So the first one, you're going to loop over the keys. So to do that, as our iterator, you're going to say key, and the object will now use the keys method, like that. Now I'm going to log it and say key. Let's see what it returns. There, we've now iterated through the keys of our map object. Now let's try to iterate through the values. So I'm going to select all of them, then change them to values, then log it. There we have it. Nice. Now let's try to iterate over the entries. So I'm going to pass in entries, and there we have it. Very nice. So if you want to get the key itself, you just pass in 0, then you have the keys. Then if you want to get the values, use 1 there. Something interesting is that the for of loop uses the entries method by default from a map object. So I can get rid of the entries and it will still work. And see, there, it still works. So this is just a way of making things simpler and more straightforward, so it works. So just a side note, the value of an item doesn't always have to be a string. It can also be other data types. For example, this time I'm going to use an array. So I'm just going to say hobbies. So you can have an array of hobbies, something like that. Yeah, so I'm just going to say swimming, coding, yeah, dancing and skating. But then let me know what your hobbies are down in the comments below. So when I log this, see, we have it over here, hobbies, and then we have the array. We could also have objects as our values. For example, location. I'm just going to set it as country Kenya, and the city Kenya, and city Nairobi. If I log it, see, there we have it. We have our object as a value. Now, back to iteration. The map object has the for each method that could also be used to iterate. So the for each method takes a callback having the value, the key, and the map object itself. So I'm going to pass in v for value, k for the key, and finally m for the map. So I'm just going to use the ES6 arrow functions, which is going to return a log, console.log. Then I'm going to use template literals. So I'm going to pass in the key, then have an arrow to separate the key from the value, like that. V. Now let's log it and see. There we have it. So each key is separated from its corresponding value, like that. That is very helpful. Now, just to show you the map, I'm just going to add another arrow and say M. And see, there we have it. So we have the map object itself. It's being referenced by the M. Nice. Now you might be wondering, how do you convert a normal JavaScript object to a map object? So I'm going to give an example of a normal JavaScript object. So I'm going to say user object with the name Ruel, the age as 18, and email as ruel@gmail.com. Now, in order to do that, we need to get the entries from that object. And to do this, JavaScript gives us a tool known as object.entries. Object.entries. Then you pass in the object itself. Now if you log it, we see this. So these are the entries from that object, which is very similar to what we're using to create our map object. So with this, we can now come here and say const user map equals new map, then pass in the entries from that object like this. I'm just going to copy this, then paste it in there. Then I'm going to log the user map and see what we get. There, we have the user map. So this is an actual object converted to a map object. Wow, that is so cool. If you think that is cool also, let me know in the comment section below. Now let's learn how to convert a map object to a normal JavaScript object. So for this, I'm going to create a fresh map object like this one. like that. Now, in order to do this, we use the from entries method from the JavaScript object class. So we just say object from entries. Then there you pass in your map. Then you give the entries method like that. So when you log this, say user object, we should get a normal JavaScript object. Let's see. There we go. We have a normal JavaScript object, name, age, and email. You could even try to get, a value, say age, for example. And see, there we have 18. Now, something worth mentioning is that you don't necessarily have to use the entries method from your map object because it uses it by default. So if we get rid of it, see, it still works. Very nice. Now, to delete an item from the map object, we use the delete method. So I'm just going to say user.delete. Then you pass in the key. For example, email. It's going to use email. And then I'm going to try to log the entire map object and see items. So when you try to look through, you'll find that the email entry is deleted. It's no longer there. Now let's try to eliminate the 404. So I'm just going to say 404. No, wait. Remember the 404 key was a number, so I have to pass it in as a number like this. Then try to log it. So here we see the email is back, but then when you look through, we cannot find the 404 entry. To get the size of your map object, use the size property like this. Like you can see, mine is 9. To clear all items from your map object, use the clear method. This will remove all items and leave your map empty, like that. Now you want to know why you want to be using the map object as opposed to the regular JavaScript object? This is why. The map object does not contain any keys by default. It only contains the keys which you explicitly define, as opposed to the regular JavaScript object, which inherits keys from its prototype, which could actually collide with the keys you define. Next up is security. Well, you want your code to be secure, right? So a map object is safer to use with user provided keys and values as opposed to a normal JavaScript object. Well, this is because a normal JavaScript object could allow an attacker to override the object prototype, which can lead to object injection attacks. You can feel free to look it up. I'll link it in the description below. So yeah. Now, next is key types. As we've already seen, the map object allows you to have a key of multiple data types, ranging from functions, objects, strings, even numbers, even booleans are included, while a regular JavaScript object limits you to only having a string or a symbol. Now, next is key order. Now, what is this? Well, in a nutshell, whenever you're iterating over a map object, the entries appear in the order in which you specified them, okay? In the order in which you set each value, in the order in which you added each value. That's how they will appear. Well, in a normal JavaScript object, well, at least in ECMAScript 5, in ES5, well, they used to appear in a random order. Well, that's until we had ES6, which brought in the for-in loop that fixed this problem. So as though it's not so much of a difference, but of course they fixed it and it works for both. So yeah, choose whatever floats your boat with regard to this factor. Now, next up is size. As already seen, the map object gives us the size property, which can be used to get the number of items within our map object, as opposed to the regular JavaScript object. Now, iteration. As already seen, there are two ways of iterating over a map object. Using the for off loop also gives the for each method. Well, when it comes to normal JavaScript objects, it also uses the for off loop to iterate. If you want to iterate over the keys, you just use object.keys. Then you pass in your objects and it will work. Now, next up, let's look at performance. The map object is well suited for cases where you'll be having frequent addition and removal of key value pairs, as opposed to the normal JavaScript object, which is not well optimized for such cases. Well, next up we have serialization and parsing. Well, this is one of the major drawbacks of the map object, is that you cannot convert a map object to JSON, and you cannot convert JSON to a map object, especially when you're handling APIs. Well, a normal JavaScript object can do this using JSON stringify and JSON parse. Thank you guys for watching my video. Catch you in the next one.